Chapter 1655. What? The power of law. Lu Mu and the others trembled as they looked at the little golden beast. They couldn't help but tremble. What kind of existence is this? It has mastered the power of law. Qin Feiyang's pupils also constricted. Although he had seen through it, he was still surprised when he heard the small beast admit it. Suddenly, the small beast waved its paw and Chang Shui floated to it. What do you want? Seeing this, Qin Feiyang looked at the small beast in shock and anger. But the small beast turned a deaf ear to him. It reached out its paw, grabbed Chang Shui, and looked at it up and down. What's going on? Chang Shui didn't resist. Even Chang Shui is afraid of it. Willow Tree and the others were shocked. Qin Feiyang's face was gloomy and he shouted, Chang Shui, come back. Boom! All of a sudden, the small beast waved its paw, and a terrifying power rushed toward Qin Feiyang and the others. Bastard, give me back Chang Shui! Qin Feiyang roared and his power burst out. Willow Tree and the others also released their power, which intertwined with Qin Feiyang's power and blasted toward the small beast. Boom! Accompanied by a loud noise. Qin Feiyang's group of over 100 fake divinities were like withered trees before the little beast's divine might. They were unable to withstand a single blow and were instantly disintegrated. It's so scary. It's countless times more powerful than the Guardian. Everyone's body and mind trembled. Boom! Then, the little beast's divine might blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Puff! Qin Feiyang and the others were blown away on the spot, blood gushing out of their mouths. Before I say anything, whoever dares to say another word will be killed without mercy. Small Beast glanced at Qin Feiyang's group and said coldly. Then, he lowered his head and continued to size up Chang Shui. Qin Feiyang steadied himself, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and stared at Small Beast, his eyes flashing with a shocking coldness. Willow Tree and the others stood behind Qin Feiyang, keeping quiet out of fear. After a long time, Small Beast chuckled. Not bad, not bad. This dagger is indeed a heaven-defying artifact. Qin Feiyang said. Can you give it back to me now? Return it to you? You can't be that naive. Small Beast laughed mockingly. Qin Feiyang's heart sank as he said, State your conditions. As long as you return Chang Shui to me, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. It seems like this dagger is extraordinarily important to you. In that case, I can't return it to you. Small Beast teased. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. How about this? I can return it to you. But you hurt my men. I can't just let it go. Make your move now. Kill all the people behind you, and I'll give you the dagger. Small Beast said. Willow Tree and the others' eyes were suddenly filled with anger. Qin Feiyang turned his head and glanced at Willow Tree and the others. Then he looked back at Small Beast and said word by word, Impossible. Small Beast laughed. I knew you would say that. Since you can't bear to do it, let me do it for you. Swish! Suddenly, the little golden beast's shadow disappeared. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He immediately waved his hand, and the castle floating next to Shui Song and the inner demons broke through the air and disappeared between his eyebrows. He immediately sent Willow Tree and the others to the castle. Humph! Small Beast appeared behind Qin Feiyang and snorted discontentedly. A supreme power emerged. Willow Tree and the others who were sent to the castle were actually captured by it. Even White-Eyed Wolf, Lu Hong, and the others were also captured. How is this possible? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. Small Beast released its pressure and firmly imprisoned everyone in the void. It looked at Qin Feiyang and joked. You think you'll be fine after sending them to the castle? You're so silly that it's cute. What do you want to do? Qin Feiyang roared. What do I want to do? Small Beast chuckled, and its pressure rose crazily. White-Eyed Wolf, Lu Hong, and the others who were imprisoned in the void suddenly howled in pain. Qin Feiyang saw this and roared. Let them go. I don't want Chang Shui anymore. Sorry, it's too late. Small Beast smiled coldly, and a terrifying divine power emerged. In an instant, White-Eyed Wolf, Lu Hong, and the others were all shattered, turning into a bloody mist, rolling in the void. They didn't even scream. No. Qin Feiyang suddenly gritted his teeth. Boom! His eyes and long hair were instantly blood red. Bastard, I'll kill you. He let out a hysterical roar, and his 3,000 incarnations, the sovereign of 9 and 5, the emperor of all spirits, all appeared and charged toward the little beast in a frenzy. You dare to act rashly with your little strength? Small beast smiled disdainfully, raised its little paw, and pointed in the air. A golden divine light flashed across the sky like lightning, instantly shattering all the statues and incarnations, and entered Qin Feiyang's chest. His heart was shattered on the spot, and half of his chest was gone. Then, Qin Feiyang fell powerlessly into the desert below. Purple gold dragon blood surged out, dyeing the surrounding yellow sand red. Why? What did they do wrong? It's obviously you who are wrong. You created the cage called the Black Tortoise World. Is it wrong for them to resist? Why should you kill them? So cruel, you bastards. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the heavens? Qin Feiyang climbed up in a sorry state, and glared at Small Beast, the fire dragon, and the giant python and roared crazily. The fire dragon and the giant python's eyes were full of mockery. Small Beast was shrouded in golden light, and its expression couldn't be seen, but its words were filled with endless coldness. There was once a world countless times bigger than a miracle, and I could swallow it in one gulp. Do you think I'm afraid of the so-called punishment of the heavens? Swallow a great world. Qin Feiyang's body and mind trembled. What kind of existence was this? So be it, you hurt the fire dragon, and I killed your people, so we're even. As for this dagger, I like it very much, so I'll take it. Small Beast joked. The giant python hurriedly said, Sir, what about the inner demons and the cedars? Aren't we going to get rid of them together? The inner demons not far away suddenly had a look of surprise in their eyes. Where it's possible to let people off, we should spare them. We can't kill them all. In short, we have to win people over with virtue. We can't use violence. Don't you agree? Small Beast said. The giant python and the fire dragon looked at each other speechless. They had already killed everyone around Qin Feiyang. How could they win people over with virtue? Shameless. But they didn't dare to say this out loud. Boy, if you want to take revenge, come to the 3rd floor. I'll be waiting, but the prerequisite is that you have to have the strength to defeat me. Small Beast looked down at Qin Feiyang, said contemptuously, then waved its claws, and disappeared with the fire dragon and the giant python. Ah! Qin Feiyang roared to the sky, his blood-red eyes full of anger and killing intent. After a long time, he helplessly lowered his head and glanced at the empty void and desert. They were all dead. He was the only one left. He was like a helpless child, slowly lying on the yellow sand, crying bitterly. He had never been so desperate. Even when he was expelled from the imperial capital, it couldn't compare to the pain of losing his companions and friends at this moment. Sigh! Inner demons sighed deeply, walked in front of Qin Feiyang and said, See, not everyone is as kind as you in today's world. If you want to achieve great things, you have to be ruthless enough. Tens of thousands of cedar trees also flew in front of Qin Feiyang, shaking their withered branches and leaves, as if comforting Qin Feiyang. At the same time, they also released what little vitality they had left, pouring into Qin Feiyang's body, repairing Qin Feiyang's heart. Qin Feiyang looked up at the cedar trees and inner demons, then lowered his head, like a stone statue, sitting on the ground, not saying a word. Swish! Soon, Zhuge Mingyang also appeared from the space divine item, looking at Qin Feiyang with a trace of sympathy in his eyes. But more than that, he was gloating. Boom! He released his divine thoughts, scanning the void and said, Li Yun's space divine item is also gone. It seems that Ning Yifeng Li Chang and the others are also dead. Qin Feiyang said angrily, Isn't this what you want? Yes, this is what I want. Not only that, I'm going to kill you. Zhuge Mingyang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Swish! As soon as he said that, tens of thousands of cedar trees immediately moved, like an iron bucket, protecting Qin Feiyang. Seeing this, Zhuge Mingyang raised his eyebrows, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, It's hard not to be jealous of you. Haven't you heard of this saying? There are gains and losses. Although I am kind, at the same time, it is easier for me to gain the trust of everyone, including these cedar trees. And you are cruel and merciless, who is willing to believe you? Inner demons snorted coldly. Even so, what's the use? Aren't they all dead? Even your best partners, White-Eyed Wolf, Fatso, Lu Hong, and the others are all dead. Don't you think it's funny? Zhuge Mingyang joked. You. Inner demons glared at him. Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up, his eyes flashing with a touch of determination, and said, No, they won't die. Zhuge Mingyang was stunned and said sarcastically, Are you stupid? Look at them yourself, they have all turned into blood mist. And the blood mist is still rolling in the air. But inner demons, hearing Qin Feiyang's words, suddenly trembled, and stared at Qin Feiyang in shock. Qin Feiyang looked at inner demons and said, Immediately collect the blood mist. I don't agree. Inner demons said angrily. Without them, what's the point of me living alone? If you don't agree, I will die in front of you. If I die, you won't be able to live either. Qin Feiyang shouted. Why are you so stupid? Inner demons roared angrily. Stupid people have stupid luck, don't you know? Qin Feiyang laughed. I really admire you. Inner demons stared at Qin Feiyang, waved his hand, and the blood mist rolling in the air suddenly turned into a waterfall, condensing in front of him. Following closely, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and brought Shui Song, inner demons, and the blood mist into the castle. Idiot! Zhuge Mingyang sneered. In his opinion, Qin Feiyang must have been stimulated, and his brain must be damaged. Otherwise, why would he say such stupid words? Chapter 1656. Inside the castle. In the entire castle, other than the Iron Book, the Pill Scripture, the Nether Devil Flame, and Dan Wangxai's Pill Furnace, there was no one else. Originally, this place was so lively. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and shouted, Ling Yunfei, come out. Previously, he only saw Fatso and the others, but did not see Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, or Li Jian. So Ling Yunfei and the others were definitely fine. But after a long while, Ling Yunfei still did not appear. Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal and sent a message to Ling Yunfei. Finally, Ling Yunfei's figure appeared and frowned. What are you doing? I'm currently comprehending the profound mysteries of becoming a god. Can you not disturb me if there's nothing else? Fatso and the others are all dead, Qin Feiyang said. Ugh. Ling Yunfei was startled. He rolled his eyes and said, Don't joke around. Qin Feiyang said angrily, Who is in the mood to joke with you? Come out immediately and take me to your spatial divine object. Ling Yunfei was shocked. He suddenly stood up and said, Really? Qin Feiyang nodded. Damn it. Ling Yunfei cursed angrily. In the next moment, he brought the image crystal and appeared in the castle. Looking at the empty castle, his face immediately darkened. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and the inner demons and asked, What's going on? Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, Let's go in first. Ling Yunfei waved his hand and brought Qin Feiyang, the inner demons, Shui Song, and the blood mist to immediately appear above the medicine field. Luo Qingzhu, the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, had always been with Ling Yunfei, so she was also awakened by Qin Feiyang's voice. At this moment, seeing Qin Feiyang appear, the two of them immediately went up to greet him, their faces full of surprise. Where is Li Jian? Qin Feiyang asked. Ling Yunfei closed his eyes and sensed for a moment. Then he opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, He is cultivating on a mountain peak. It's good that you're okay. Qin Feiyang breathed a sigh of relief. Feiyang, what's going on? In your cultivation, I can't see through it. Have you already broken through to the semi-divinity realm? The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's young miss said as she looked at Qin Feiyang. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. He really broke through? The three of them looked at each other. Ling Yunfei said, Wait, since you've already broken through, how did Fatso and the others die? Besides, there's also Chang Shui in the castle. Asked the inner demons. Qin Feiyang said as he scanned his surroundings. Not far away, he saw a large bluestone. Then, he brought the blood mist with him, and walked towards the bluestone. Sigh. Looking at Qin Feiyang's back, the inner demon sighed deeply, turned his head to look at Ling Yunfei and the others, and began to tell them what had happened before. At the same time, Qin Feiyang sat cross-legged on the bluestone, looked at the blood mist floating in front of him, and muttered, Don't worry, I definitely won't let you die. With that, he closed his eyes. A moment later, the inner demons finally finished speaking. Ling Yunfei and the other two's faces were also filled with anger. They never would have thought that so many things would happen outside in such a short period of time. Even Chang Shui had been snatched away. The three of them turned their heads to look at Qin Feiyang, their eyes filled with unbearable pain. Not to mention Willow Tree and the others. People like White-Eyed Wolf, Fatso, and Lu Hong were all Qin Feiyang's most cherished companions, friends, and family. One could imagine how big of a blow it would be to him if they all died at once. Luo Qingzhu sighed. Let's not disturb him, let him calm down by himself. The inner demon said. He's not calming down. He's trying to save Fatso and the others. What? Save Fatso and the others? Wait. Aren't they dead? How? Ling Yunfei was bewildered. The inner demons was about to speak when the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house sighed and said, the fourth move of the Divine Dragon technique can save everyone. How do you know? The inner demons raised his eyebrows. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house did not say anything. She looked at Qin Feiyang with a trace of pity in her eyes. The fourth move of the Divine Dragon technique? What are you talking about? Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu looked at the two of them suspiciously. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said, Emperor Qin is kind-hearted and cares about the common people. Therefore, when he created the Divine Dragon technique, he created a heaven-defying technique that can save the common people. It's the fourth move? Ling Yunfei asked. Yes. The fourth move is called Gate of Rebirth. And the fourth move is divided into 4 realms. Initial, small success, major success, and perfection. Initial can save 1,000 people. Small success can save 10,000 people. Major success can save 1,000,000 people. Reaching the perfection stage can save billions of people. Feiyang should still be at the initial stage. Although it's initial stage, as long as there's a little bit of blood left in the dead, he can be saved. But at the same time, he will pay a heavy price. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said. What price? Ling Yunfei asked. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said. The fourth move is to sacrifice oneself in exchange for the rebirth of others. The price to pay for each realm is different. The price to pay for the initial stage is to lose one's cultivation. The inner demons added. And it's a complete loss. No divine pill can save it. What? Ling Yunfei's body trembled. It turned out that this was the reason why Qin Feiyang had not used the fourth move. He hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, I won't allow you to do this. The inner demons waved his hand and said, Forget it. I've already objected to it outside. It's useless. Luo Qingzhu also hurriedly advised. Feiyang, you really have to think about it. This price is not something you can bear. That's right. It wasn't easy for you to cultivate to this step. If you lose everything just because you save them, then wouldn't your previous efforts be in vain? Actually, we all know that to you, losing your cultivation is even more painful than death. Because you have already tasted the feeling of losing your cultivation. Listen to our advice and don't do anything stupid. I believe that Fatso and the others will not allow you to do this if they know about it. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house also tried her best to persuade him. However, Qin Feiyang did not seem to hear it, and did not open his eyes. Ling Yunfei said angrily, Stupid, stupid. I don't care. In any case, I'm just the inner demons. He's the main body. He can do whatever he wants. The inner demons said in a fit of anger. A moment later, Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes and swept his gaze over them. The purple gold dragon aura suddenly burst out of his body. Are you really going to do this? Ling Yunfei said angrily. Qin Feiyang said, I've already lost enough in this life. I can't lose everyone again. If the ones who died today were you guys, I would do the same. As soon as he finished, the purple gold dragon aura soared into the sky. Purple gold clouds quickly appeared in the entire sky of the spatial divine object. Sigh. The inner demons sighed and silently retreated to the side. Ling Yunfei and the other two looked at each other, and silently retreated with a heart full of helplessness. Boom! Crack! Between the clouds, the sound of thunder gradually became louder and lightning roared. Roar! A purple gold divine dragon was faintly discernible in the clouds, emitting a great dragon's might. Soon, a second, third, and fourth purple gold divine dragon appeared. They would occasionally fly out from the clouds, revealing their huge bodies. Each of them was more than 10,000 feet long, covering the sky and the sun. About half an hour passed. A total of 99 purple gold divine dragons appeared in the sky. They danced in the clouds and hovered in the sky. Every dragon's scale on their bodies emitted a dazzling purple gold divine light, and a mighty dragon's might enveloped the world. 99 purple gold divine dragons. What a spectacular scene. Such a scene was rare in one's life. Ling Yunfei and the others looked at the sky and were deeply shocked by this scene. Roar! Suddenly, the 99 purple gold divine dragons roared at the sky in unison. Then, they gathered together. The dragon heads faced the sky, and the dragon heads faced the ground. From afar, they looked like pillars of divine metal, standing between heaven and earth, and shining with purple gold divine light in all directions. With my will, I seize the creation of heaven and earth. With my body, I seize the origin of the world. Gate of rebirth appear. Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up and roared at the sky, his long hair fluttering in the wind. At this moment, he seemed to have transformed into a ruler who controlled heaven and earth, and a monstrous domineering aura was released from his body. Roar! The 99 purple gold divine dragons roared at the same time. Clang! In the next moment, accompanied by an earth-shattering sound, a huge stone door appeared above the heads of the 99 purple gold divine dragons. The stone door was 999 feet tall, and was emitting a dazzling purple gold divine light. It was engraved with the earth, mountains, rivers, and all living things. Every pattern was as if it was a work of nature, and was incomparably real. One could even see the ferocious beasts roaring inside, and the humans struggling to survive inside. Just as the gate of rebirth appeared, Qin Feiyang's cultivation level dropped rapidly. Peak 9-star combat emperor realm. 9-star combat emperor. 8-star combat emperor. 7-star combat emperor. 6-star combat emperor. However, Qin Feiyang didn't seem to feel anything. He looked at the gate of rebirth and muttered, "As long as I can exchange for everyone. So what if I lose my cultivation level?" He waved his hand, and the blood mist floating in front of him suddenly turned into a waterfall, and rushed into the sky, and into the gate of rebirth. His cultivation level was still dropping. At the same time, in a certain place, there were medicinal herbs all over the ground. Both those he had seen, and those he had never seen before were all here. They were all medicinal herbs that were tens of thousands of years old, hundreds of thousands of years old, and even millions of years old. The medicinal fragrance was rich, and the light was overflowing. The heaven and earth were filled with essence that couldn't be dispersed. In the middle of the medicinal herb field, there was a divine tree that reached the sky. But the strange thing was, there was not even a single branch on the sacred tree. Green leaves grew on the trunk like precious jade, sparkling and translucent. At the peak of the divine tree, a beautiful woman sat cross-legged with a guqin on her lap. Her black hair was like a waterfall, and she wore a snow-white dress. Her jade-like fingers kept plucking the strings of the guqin, producing a beautiful and pleasant sound. Beside her sat a young man. He was 7 feet tall, and his body was thin. His long hair was as white as snow. Although he looked very young, the space between his brows was filled with the feeling of having experienced the vicissitudes of life. In his hand there was a wine pot. He tasted the wine while looking at the woman. When he heard the sound of the guqin, his handsome face was filled with love for the woman. Chapter 1657. But suddenly, the white-haired young man seemed to have sensed something. He raised his hand and pointed in the air. An image suddenly appeared in the void in front of him. In the image, 99 purple gold divine dragons were holding a huge stone door. A terrifying dragon aura shrouded the world. Below, a young man in white stood on a piece of bluestone and stared at the stone door intently. That's right. This person was Qin Feiyang. The woman stopped playing the zither and looked at Qin Feiyang in the image. She smiled and said, "He's willing to sacrifice himself for a friend. He's still the same as in his previous life. He hasn't changed at all." Yes. The white-haired young man nodded. But the woman frowned her beautiful brows again. But what? The white-haired young man looked at her in confusion. Is it really okay for the little guy to do this? Isn't it afraid that Qin Feiyang will bear a grudge against it? The woman said. So what if he bears a grudge? With the little guy's current strength, Qin Feiyang won't be its opponent at all. The white-haired young man smiled. Even so, don't forget that Qin Feiyang isn't an ordinary person. He's his reincarnation. With his talent, it's only a matter of time before he catches up. I think it's best to let the little guy restrain himself and not go too far. Otherwise, you'll be implicated. The woman said worriedly. Implicate me? The white-haired young man smiled and his brows were full of arrogance. I'm serious. The woman said angrily. Yes, yes, yes. Madam is right. When I have time, I'll teach it a lesson. The white-haired young man quickly smiled apologetically. When you have time. The woman was stunned and frowned. I don't understand. Are you busy now? You've been playing all day. Of course I'm busy. Look, not only do I have to accompany you, but I also have to accompany my son and give birth to another girl. How can I find the time? Madam, can you not care about these things? Let the little guy handle it himself. Besides, you have to give up something to gain something. Qin Feiyang has lost a lot now, but maybe he will gain even more in the future. The young man in white said meaningfully. He stepped forward and hugged the woman tightly. He chuckled and said, Let's hurry up and make a baby. Those old people above are urging us. If we don't work harder, I'm afraid we'll be scolded by them again. The woman blushed and said angrily, It's broad daylight. What are you thinking about? You're my wife. What do you think I'm thinking? The white-clothed young man chuckled and disappeared with the woman in his arms. The scene in the void also disappeared. Inside the spatial divine item, Qin Feiyang stood on top of the blue stone, gazing at the gate of reincarnation with eyes full of anticipation. By the side, the inner demons, Ling Yunfei Luo Qingzhu, and the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's young Mississippi. Even if his alchemy fire was still there, he couldn't refine pills now because he didn't have the herbs. So he could only choose to cultivate. Willow Tree glanced at everyone, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Young master, the most important thing is to find the herbs. After all, so many people need to cultivate. How can there be no herbs? There's no rush. We still have a lot of blood-devouring bees' honey, which is enough for everyone to cultivate. I think we should go to the main hall to take a look now, because Zhuge Mingyang is still outside. Ling Yunfei said. Qin Feiyang nodded, looked at Ling Yunfei and said, How about this? Willow Tree and Yuhuang will accompany me outside. You go back and continue to comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god. When Li Yin and the others calm down, let them out. Okay. If there's anything, remember to inform me. After Ling Yunfei finished speaking, he disappeared. Willow Tree looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Young master, can you still control the castle now? No. But I can go out. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he took Willow Tree and Yuhuang, and appeared in the desert. Woo-woo. A terrifying storm swept over. Willow Tree hurriedly took Qin Feiyang, and rushed into the main hall within 100 feet. There was no storm within 100 feet, so it was very safe. And after the battle ended, the place returned to peace. That bastard is really here. Yuhuang thought, his eyes as gloomy as water. In front of the main hall, Zhuge Mingyang looked at the door, holding his chin, his face full of confusion. Qin Feiyang glanced at Zhuge Mingyang, took out the castle, and handed it to Willow Tree. Before my cultivation recovers, you keep the castle. I will take good care of it. Willow Tree said solemnly. Let's go. After Willow Tree kept the castle, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and walked towards Zhuge Mingyang. What is he thinking? He didn't even notice our aura. Yuhuang looked at Zhuge Mingyang and asked suspiciously. He should be thinking about how to open the door of the main hall. Qin Feiyang guessed. If that's the case, why don't we take the opportunity to kill him now? Yuhuang thought, killing intent flashing in his eyes. I agree. Willow Tree said. Let's do it. A sinister smile appeared on Yuhuang's face. She changed the color of her skin, blending together with the yellow sand as she silently sped towards Zhuge Mingyang. Seeing Yuhuang approaching step by step and about to succeed, Zhuge Mingyang suddenly raised his eyebrows, and a terrifying aura burst out. He was caught off guard. Instead, Yu Huang was sent flying. Zhuge Mingyang turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang. When he saw Lu Mu at the side, a hint of bewilderment instantly crept into his eyes. He said, "Didn't you die?" "I'm lucky I didn't die." Willow Tree sneered. Yu Huang also appeared next to Qin Feiyang, staring coldly at Zhuge Mingyang. "You're not dead." Zhuge Mingyang looked at Yu Huang in shock. Yu Huang snorted. "You're a scourge. How can we be willing to die when you're not dead?" Zhuge Mingyang glanced at the man and beast, and looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. "How did you do it? Wait, where's your cultivation? Why is it gone?" Qin Feiyang ignored him, and scanned the main hall. Zhuge Mingyang frowned. Could it be that the resurrection of Willow Tree and Yu Huang had something to do with Qin Feiyang's cultivation? Willow Tree and Yu Huang had been resurrected. Then did that mean the others had been resurrected as well? Qin Feiyang stepped forward and asked, "Why are you still standing outside?" Zhuge Mingyang suppressed the doubts in his heart, and turned around to look at the door of the great hall. He said angrily, "I've tried everything, but I just can't open this door. You should know how to open it." "I don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "You don't know?" Zhuge Mingyang was stunned and frowned. "Then why are you here?" "Brother Qin, we're old friends. Why are you hiding it from me?" "Old friends? Weren't you happy when Willow Tree and the others were killed?" Qin Feiyang sneered. Hearing this, Willow Tree and Yu Huang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Zhuge Mingyang smiled embarrassedly and said, "That was a joke. How can you take it seriously, right?" Qin Feiyang glanced at him and took a few steps back, looking at Willow Tree and Yu Huang, saying, "Try and see if you can open the door." Zhuge Mingyang sneered. "Even I can't do it, do you think they can? How will we know if we don't try?" Lu Mu coldly snorted. He transmitted his voice. "Yu Huang, go and protect the young master. You have to be careful. Right now, you don't have a divine weapon. You aren't a match for Zhuge Mingyang." "Got it." Baiming Yu Huang silently replied. After that, she sped towards Qin Feiyang with lightning speed. Zhuge Mingyang glanced at the two men and the beast, and also retreated to the side. Chapter 1659. Willow Tree stared at the door, his 5 fingers clenched into a fist, constantly accumulating power. "Ha!" Suddenly, he roared. He punched the door. The power of the false god rolled out. A loud bang resounded through the sky. However, the door didn't move at all. So strong! Willow Tree raised his eyebrows. He took out the castle, poured the power of the false god into it, and smashed the door. Clang! The door still didn't move. "Let's try together?" Zhuge Mingyang stepped forward and looked at Willow Tree. "Okay." Willow Tree glanced at him and nodded. Boom! The two of them slapped at the same time, and they used all their strength. But the result was still useless. Willow Tree said angrily, "Even this can't open it?" "Stop," Qin Feiyang said. Willow Tree turned to look at Qin Feiyang, lowered his head and said, "This subordinate is incompetent. It's not your fault. I suddenly remembered that when the fire dragon blasted the door with his divine power, the door didn't even tremble, let alone you." Qin Feiyang said, "Then how do we open it?" Willow Tree raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang stepped forward, glanced at the door and said, "There should be some mechanism. I've searched everywhere outside this hall, but I didn't find any mechanism at all." Zhuge Mingyang shook his head, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "You really don't know how to open it?" Qin Feiyang said, "If I knew, would I let Willow Tree spend so much effort? Then who knows? What if you saw me here and let Willow Tree put on an act?" Zhuge Mingyang sneered. "Do you think I'm a villain like you?" Qin Feiyang retorted. Zhuge Mingyang raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang ignored him and walked to the front door, reaching out to touch the door. An ice-cold chill immediately spread from his palm to his heart. There was no mechanism. Brute force would not be able to break it. Didn't this mean that there was no way to enter the hall at all? Back then, the mysterious man had said that it would be very difficult to enter this hall, and it turned out to be true. "Do I need blood?" Qin Feiyang suddenly froze. Some of the doors had undergone special treatment and required a certain person's blood to open. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhuge Mingyang and asked, "Have you tested it with your blood?" I've tried. Zhuge Mingyang nodded. Obviously, this method wouldn't work either. Otherwise, Zhuge Mingyang would have already gone in. After thinking for a moment, Zhuge Mingyang added, "You can give it a try. After all, your purple gold dragon blood is even more noble than our bloodline power." Qin Feiyang said, "Why do I feel that your words sound so sarcastic?" "It's the truth. You're thinking too much," Zhuge Mingyang said. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and bit the tip of his index finger. A drop of purple gold dragon blood appeared. His cultivation was abolished, but his bloodline power was not, and his potential imprint was still there. This was the biggest reason why he regained his confidence. As long as the purple gold dragon blood and potential imprint were there, it wouldn't take much time even if he cultivated again. He raised his index finger and pressed it on the door, but after waiting for a long time, the door didn't respond at all. Zhuge Mingyang raised the corner of his mouth and said lightly, "It seems that your bloodline power is nothing special. Do you think it will affect me if you mock me like this? It won't. On the contrary, it will make you look ridiculous," Qin Feiyang said contemptuously. Zhuge Mingyang suddenly had a trace of hostility between his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang ignored it and raised his arm again, pressing it on the stone door and pushing it hard. Boom! Just as he pushed, the stone door actually made a deafening sound. This sudden change scared Willow Tree and Qin Feiyang so much that they hurriedly retreated. Yu Huang and Zhuge Mingyang also retreated at lightning speed. The three people and one beast sized up the stone door, their eyes full of surprise. The rumbling sound gradually dissipated, but the stone door was still tightly shut. There was nothing unusual, and nothing jumped out of the hall. "Was it an illusion?" Zhuge Mingyang asked. "We all heard it. How could it be an illusion?" Willow Tree rolled his eyes and turned to Qin Feiyang, saying, "I'll go take a look." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. If it was before, he would definitely go by himself. But now it was different. Not to mention that his cultivation was destroyed. The castle was also with Willow Tree. If anything happened, even the gods couldn't save him. Willow Tree slowly stepped forward, his face full of vigilance. When he walked to the door, he carefully looked at the door. A trace of surprise gradually crept up in his eyes. Suddenly, his eyes were fixed on the center of the door. Soon, a trace of ecstasy crept up his face, and he shouted, "Young master, come here. There is a crack in the door." "What? A crack in the door?" Hearing that, Yu Huang immediately took Qin Feiyang and rushed to Willow Tree's side. Zhuge Mingyang also ran over with a look of bewilderment. Willow Tree pointed to the door and finally said, "See." The two people and one beast looked at the place where Willow Tree was pointing, and their eyes suddenly lit up. The whole door was originally one, without any cracks. But at this moment, there was a small crack in the center of the door. Although it was very small and almost impossible to see with the naked eye, it did exist. Yu Huang said in astonishment, "Does this mean that the door has been opened?" Hearing Yu Huang's words, Zhuge Mingyang immediately stepped forward and slapped the door. With a bang, the stone door remained motionless. The crack in the door didn't change at all. "I don't believe this," Zhuge Mingyang said angrily, and then punched the door with all his strength. As a result, not only did he not blast the door open, but his arm was numb from the shock. "What's going on?" He was puzzled. Yu Huang and Willow Tree also frowned. Suddenly, the two people and one beast looked at Qin Feiyang together. "Why are you looking at me?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "No, I remember that earlier. It was because you pushed the door with all your might that the rumbling sound was heard. Furthermore, a crack appeared on the door. I think it must have something to do with you," Zhuge Mingyang said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and shook his head. "It should be a coincidence. I'm just a mortal now, and my strength is much weaker than yours. If you can't open the door, how can I open it?" "That's true," Zhuge Mingyang nodded. Even he, a fake god, couldn't open the door. How could a mortal open the door? Willow Tree pondered for a while, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Young master, why don't you try again? Who knows, maybe this door will only give you face." "Only give me face? Do you think I'm the god of creation? Why should it give me face?" Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly, but did as he was told. He went forward and pressed the stone door, and pushed hard. Bang! That deafening noise sounded again. Willow Tree, Yu Huang and Zhuge Mingyang looked at each other. Was it really because of Qin Feiyang? Qin Feiyang was also shocked. What the hell was going on? When he came back to his senses, he looked at the door gap and found that the door gap had become a little wider. Young master, it's really giving you face, Willow Tree said excitedly. It doesn't make sense. Even I, a semi-divinity, am unable to smash it open. How can a powerless mortal like him be able to push it open? Zhuge Mingyang wailed. That's my luck, Yu Huang said proudly. What does this have to do with luck? Zhuge Mingyang rolled his eyes. Willow Tree thought for a while and asked, Young master, do you think this hall has something to do with you? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Like you, this is my first time here. What can I do with it? Maybe it's just like Yu Huang said. I have a good luck. Zhuge Mingyang's face twitched. This bastard said that he was fat, and he really panted. Yu Huang urged, since you can open it, hurry up and see what's inside. Qin Feiyang nodded. This time, he pressed his hands on the stone door and pushed hard. Rumble. The loud noise was deafening again. The door gap also became wider and wider. The door of the palace was as big as a mountain. Qin Feiyang stood under the door like a tiny ant. But at this moment, the ant was really pushing down the elephant in front of him little by little. As the door opened, a vast aura surged out of the hall. Whether it was Willow Tree, Yu Huang, or Zhuge Mingyang, they all felt a kind of fear from the soul. It was as if there was an ancient divine king lurking in this hall. As a mortal, he is actually more outstanding than me. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Zhuge Mingyang looked at Qin Feiyang's back and felt very unbalanced. Qin Feiyang was so tired that he was sweating profusely. Although he could open the door, he had to use all his strength. Fortunately, his current body was still the body of a false god. Otherwise, he would be exhausted. Rumble. After a long time, the door was finally opened half a meter wide, which was enough to enter. But inside it was pitch black. Even the three false gods, Willow Tree, Yu Huang and Zhuge Mingyang, couldn't tear open the darkness and see what was inside. Feeling. Behind this door, it was like a dark bottomless abyss that no one dared to set foot in. Willow Tree turned to look at Zhuge Mingyang and joked. Didn't you want to go in? Now that the door has been opened by the young master, why are you still standing here? Zhuge Mingyang said without blushing. We are partners. Of course, we should share the joys and sorrows. Partners? Willow Tree snorted and whispered. Young master, I will go in first to explore. Wait for me here. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Willow Tree then transmitted his voice to Yu Huang. You must be careful of Zhuge Mingyang and protect the young master. Don't worry, Yu Huang said secretly. Willow Tree looked up at the dark area behind the stone door, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. Buzz! But before his step landed, a white light curtain appeared in front of him, and directly bounced Willow Tree away. Huh! Qin Feiyang, Yu Huang, and Zhuge Mingyang were surprised. After Willow Tree stabilized his body, he returned to Qin Feiyang's side with a look of surprise on his face. Qin Feiyang said, Are you okay? I'm fine. Willow Tree waved his hand and frowned. The door has been opened. Why can't we go in? Let me try. Yu Huang rose into the air and flew inside, but the result was also blocked by the light curtain. Chapter 1660. The light curtain flickered with dim divine light, like a natural moat, blocking in front of Qin Feiyang and the others. Zhuge Mingyang frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang. Brother Qin, why don't you try? Yes. Maybe only the one who pushes open the stone door can go in. Willow Tree's eyes lit up as he guessed. Hearing Willow Tree's words, Zhuge Mingyang's eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of coldness. What do you want to do? Willow Tree immediately stared at Zhuge Mingyang gloomily. What do you mean, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Zhuge Mingyang was stunned. Don't think I didn't see the cold light in your eyes. Let me tell you, if you dare to do anything, I will drag you to hell even if I have to self-destruct. Willow Tree said in a deep voice. What cold light? I don't know what you are talking about. Zhuge Mingyang said expressionlessly. Humph. Willow Tree snorted and said in a low voice. Young master, go ahead. Yu Huang and I will watch outside. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. glanced at Zhuge Mingyang and stepped forward. As a result, the light curtain in front of him was as if it was nothing, and he directly crossed it. How can this be? I don't accept this. Why can only he go in and I can't? Seeing this, Zhuge Mingyang's killing intent suddenly rose, and he slapped at Qin Feiyang's back. Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good, and his other foot quickly followed in. At that moment, Qin Feiyang disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Zhuge Mingyang slapped at the light curtain, and a terrifying force came from the light curtain. He immediately flew out with a scream and smashed into the yellow sand, looking extremely embarrassed. Do you know what this is called? You reap what you sow. Willow Tree and Yu Huang turned to look at Zhuge Mingyang and gloated. You reap what you sow. I think you're courting death. Zhuge Mingyang was infuriated. His bone dragon battle soul appeared, and he immediately activated his special ability, the cultivation of the Willow Tree, and Yu Huang began to plummet. Willow Tree's eyes flashed with killing intent. He immediately led Yu Huang into the castle. Zhuge Mingyang was stunned. A trace of mockery crawled up his face as he said, "Let's see how long you can hide." Subsequently, he strode to the gate and stood guard there. His fighting soul and innate divine ability did not dissipate. Inside the castle, Willow Tree looked at Zhuge Mingyang through the screen with a gloomy face. Not good. This bastard is obviously waiting outside for Qin Feiyang. When Qin Feiyang comes out, he will probably be killed by him. Yu Huang said worriedly, I won't let him succeed. As soon as the young master appears, I will immediately go out. Even if I have to risk my life, I will protect the young master. Willow Tree said word by word. And then there was Qin Feiyang. The moment he entered the main hall, his eyes lit up. At this moment, he was standing at the entrance of the main hall, less than 2 or 3 meters away from Zhuge Mingyang. Moreover, he could clearly see Zhuge Mingyang, but Zhuge Mingyang couldn't see him. And in front of him was an extremely huge hall? Yes. In the air above, there was a diamond-shaped crystal stone. That crystal stone was the size of an adult's palm. It had distinct edges and corners, like a sparkling and translucent diamond, blooming with bright light. Woo! Looking for? Fierce quail. Before, the vast chi that gushed out of the main hall came from that crystal stone. But the whole hall? Woo! Fourth knock poison? Shilai mu? Ao. There was no room. There were no tables and chairs. There was no trace of anyone. It seemed extremely empty. Qin Feiyang turned his head and glanced at Zhuge Mingyang, glancing around the huge hall. Wu? Wu Jun of the Broken Skeleton Dam Bloody Temple. His voice echoed in the hall for a long time. No one responded to him for a long time. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment. Then he carefully walked around the hall. Wu Jun Su Hu Chu. Hexan? Wu Jun. At last, after walking around the hall, he finally confirmed that he was the only one here. The mysterious man said that there was a treasure here that could control the Black Tortoise realm. But where is the treasure? Qin Feiyang looked around suspiciously. Suddenly, he looked at the crystal stone floating in the middle. Is it the treasure that the mysterious man said? He walked forward slowly, always vigilant. He walked to the bottom of the crystal stone and looked up at it. Is this really the treasure that the mysterious man said? After pondering for a while, he gritted his teeth, jumped up, grabbed the crystal stone, and landed steadily on the ground. No danger. Looking at the crystal stone in his hand, he was quite surprised. He thought that this crystal stone might have hidden killing intent. But now there was no change at all. He worried for nothing. But the next moment, the crystal stone released a horrible chi. Without hesitation, Qin Feiyang hurriedly threw away the crystal. However, although the crystal stone was thrown away, the chi emitted by the crystal stone did not disappear. Like a tide, it rushed toward Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. He quickly turned around and ran away. Because this chi for him now was like the power of heaven. Even his body was cracking. Soon, his whole body was stained with purple gold dragon blood, like a bloody man. Damn the mysterious man, he lied to me. Qin Feiyang cursed and ran toward the gate without hesitation. But when he hit the light curtain was not as invisible as when he came in before. It blasted him out on the spot and rolled on the ground awkwardly. That chi also shrouded him. He could not move at all, like a fish on the chopping board. His fleshly body continued to crack. However, he could only watch as all of this happened. He was powerless to stop it. Willow Tree, take us out immediately, and kill our way in. White-Eyed Wolf roared. Don't be impulsive. We can't get in at all. Besides, the door has already been closed. Willow Tree said. So what if it's closed? I don't believe that we can't break it open with so many false gods. White-Eyed Wolf said. Willow Tree said angrily. Even the fire dragon's divine power can't break it open. Do you think we can? White-Eyed Wolf was also angry. He rushed in front of Willow Tree and roared. Then we can't just stand here and watch. Give me the castle. I can't give it to you. If you run out like this, you'll kill everyone. Because Zhuge Mingyang is still outside. None of us is his match. Willow Tree shook his head. What's a Zhuge Mingyang? Give it to me. White-Eyed Wolf roared. No. Willow Tree shook his head. What? Seeing that little Qin Zi is dead, you want to take the castle for yourself? White-Eyed Wolf laughed sinisterly. I didn't. I'm doing this for your own good. Why don't you understand? If you want the castle, I can give it to you. But you have to wait until we leave the desert. Willow Tree said. Bastard. White-Eyed Wolf was burning with anger, and a terrifying aura rose from his body. Seeing that the situation was not good, Fatso Lu Zheng, the double-winged snow eagle, Dan Wangkai and the others hurried to hold White-Eyed Wolf and persuade him. Brother Wolf, calm down. Willow Tree is right. We can't be impulsive. Little Qin Zi is dead. How can I calm down? Tell me. White-Eyed Wolf roared and 2 drops of blood tears fell from his eyes. Looking at the 2 drops of blood tears, everyone's eyes trembled. How sad must he be to shed blood tears? However, thinking about it, it made sense. The ingrate and Qin Feiyang had known each other since Iron Ox Town. Who knew how much they had gone through together? Although Qin Feiyang and the White-Eyed Wolf did not usually mention this, there was no doubt that their feelings for each other were the deepest. It was even possible that in each other's hearts, they regarded each other as more important than their own lives. It was not difficult to imagine how the White-Eyed Wolf was feeling at this moment. Everyone fell silent. Chapter 1661. Suddenly, Willow Tree gritted his teeth, looked at the White-Eyed Wolf and said, All right, let's go out. The White-Eyed Wolf immediately roared, Ling Yunfei, come out quickly. Swish. In the next moment, Ling Yunfei appeared. Looking at everyone's sorrowful faces, he asked in surprise, What happened again? The White-Eyed Wolf said with killing intent. Call out all the fake gods, we'll kill our way out. Kill our way out. Ling Yunfei was stunned. Looking at the main hall and Zhuge Mingyang in front of him, he asked suspiciously, Did Zhuge Mingyang do something to you guys? It's not Zhuge Mingyang. Fatso quickly explained the situation. What? Ling Yunfei's body trembled, and he hurriedly entered the space divine object, stood above the medicine field and roared. All fake gods, gather quickly. His voice was like a bell, resounding through the sky. Whoosh. One figure after another flew into the sky. Not long later, more than 100 fake gods gathered around Ling Yunfei. Ning Mingyi, Zhao Tailai Chuili, and Li Yin were also there. Luo Qingzhu, the Miss of Dragon Phoenix House, and the Crocodile Emperor were also there. What's wrong? Looking at the angry and murderous Ling Yunfei, everyone was bewildered. Ling Yunfei said in a deep voice, Qin Feiyang was killed in that hall. What? When everyone heard this, it was like a bolt from the blue, and their minds rumbled. Feiyang. The Miss of Dragon Phoenix House's body swayed slightly, and she fainted on the spot. Ling Yunfei hurriedly went forward and hugged the Miss of Dragon Phoenix House, only to see that her face was deathly pale. What's going on? Could it be that she also likes Boss Qin? Ling Yunfei was suspicious. Upon hearing the news of Qin Feiyang's death, she actually fainted. He really couldn't find any other reason to explain it. Sister Rishuang. Luo Qingzhu also hurried forward, her face full of concern. Ling Yunfei said, Don't panic. She's just unconscious. She's fine. Luo Qingzhu let out a sigh of relief. She looked at Ling Yunfei and asked, Did you personally witness Qin Feiyang's death? No. It's Fatso and the others. They said that their enslavement seals have all disappeared. Ling Yunfei said. Slave seal. Ning Mingi and the others who were being controlled immediately closed their eyes and tried to sense the existence of the slave seal. How is it? Luo Qingzhu looked at them nervously. Zhao Tailai opened his eyes and looked at Luo Qingzhu saying, it really has disappeared. Ning Mingi and the others also nodded at Luo Qingzhu. Luo Qingzhu's body also shook violently as her vision turned dark. Ling Yunfei used his other hand to support Luo Qingzhu. Wait! Suddenly, the Golden Wolf King's voice rang out. What is it? Everyone looked at it one after another. Strange. Why didn't this king's slave seal disappear? The Golden Wolf King asked suspiciously. Yes, my slave seal didn't disappear either. The Silver Wolf King followed. And me. The Crocodile Emperor and the other beasts also followed. What? Everyone looked at each other. What was going on? Luo Qingzhu heard this and quivered. She looked at the beasts and asked, are you sure? Yes. The Golden Wolf King nodded. So Qin Feiyang is not dead? But why did Fatso and Ning Mingi's slave seals disappear? Ling Yunfei said in surprise. I don't know. Everyone shook their heads. Wait. Li Yin suddenly opened her mouth and looked at Ling Yunfei. Could it be related to everyone's death? Death. Ling Yunfei was slightly stunned. Then he became spirited and said excitedly, yes, it must be so. At that time, small beast will kill all of you. Fatso and Ning Mingi's slave seals will naturally disappear. Later, Boss Qin saved them, but the slave seals did not regenerate. So why did Fatso's slave seals disappear, but the Golden Wolf King's slave seals are still there? I think Li Jian's slave seal should still be there. I'll go ask him. After Ling Yunfei finished speaking, he immediately disappeared. Why hasn't he come out yet? What is he doing? Inside the castle, the white-eyed wolf was like an ant on a hot pan. He was extremely anxious. Lu Hong said, Brother Wolf Feiyang is dead. You are our backbone. You can't panic now. Backbone? I don't even know how he died. What qualifications do I have to be the backbone? It's all my fault. If I had enough strength, I could have stayed by his side. Maybe he wouldn't have died. The white-eyed wolf closed his eyes in pain. Swish. At this time, Ling Yunfei finally appeared. His face was full of ecstasy. Why did you only come out now? Brother Wolf is so anxious. Lu Hong asked. Ling Yunfei was about to speak when the white-eyed wolf opened his eyes. Seeing that Ling Yunfei was alone, he immediately said angrily, where are Ning Mingi and the others? They didn't come out. Ling Yunfei said. They didn't come out? The white-eyed wolf was instantly furious and roared. Are they willing to come out? No, don't misunderstand. They didn't come out because Boss Qin is not dead. Ling Yunfei quickly said. Not dead. The white-eyed wolf was stunned and roared. The slavery seal has disappeared. How can little Qinzi not be dead? It's true. Although the slavery seals of Fatso and the others have disappeared, the slavery seals of the Golden Wolf King and the others are still there. And I specially went to find Li Jian. His slavery seal is also there. What does this mean? It means that Boss Qin is still alive. Ling Yunfei said. Then how did our enslavement seal disappear? Fatso asked. Ling Yunfei said. We analyzed it inside. It should have something to do with your death. Something to do with our death? Everyone was stunned. The next moment, everyone came to their senses. Willow Tree asked, so young master is really not dead? Yes. As long as the slavery seal is still there, he is definitely not dead. Ling Yunfei nodded. Willow Tree gave a wry smile and looked at Fatso and the others, saying, we were too careless to ignore this point. Yes, although the gate of rebirth can bring us back to life, it can't bring other things back to life. That's something that Boss said himself. There are so many of us, but none of us remembered it. We even made such a big mistake. Fatso shook his head. Thinking of his previous behavior, he couldn't help laughing. This is called caring makes you confused. Of course, it's also because we don't care about being controlled by the slavery seal, so we didn't pay special attention to it. Ling Yunfei said with a smile. Willow Tree said, I don't know about the others, but I don't care at all now. It doesn't matter even if I'm controlled by young master. You've made the right choice. Ling Yunfei looked at Willow Tree and smiled. Then, he looked at the hall in the image and said, Although I don't know what happened in the hall, at least I can confirm that Qin Feiyang is still fine. Let's wait here. White-Eyed Wolf said. Even if he's fine now, you have to call Ning Mingi and the others out, just in case. Okay. Ling Yunfei nodded and turned to look at White-Eyed Wolf, only to see that White-Eyed Wolf had secretly wiped the tears of blood from the corners of his eyes. White-Eyed Wolf raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "What are you looking at with your little eyes?" Ling Yunfei smiled and said, "Brother Wolf, I didn't expect you to cry and it's—" "Shut up!" White-Eyed Wolf shouted and glared fiercely at Ling Yunfei. Then he glanced at all the people and dire beasts present and said, "No one is allowed to tell anyone about what happened today, including little Qin Zi. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning against you." Although he had a ferocious look, everyone couldn't help but laugh. White-Eyed Wolf's eyes were very fierce at first, but gradually, he couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Time flew by, and half a month passed in the blink of an eye. What's going on? Why hasn't young master come out yet? During this half a month, Willow Tree and Yu Huang had been observing the situation in the hall. As for White-Eyed Wolf, Fatso and the others, under Ling Yunfei's persuasion, they had already gone into closed-door cultivation that day. After all, the rules of time in the castle were different. Wasting 1 day was equivalent to wasting 10 days. Ning Mingi and the others had also come out, and were ready to fight at any time. Maybe young master encountered an accident inside? Or maybe he's trapped inside. Ning Mingi pondered. I'll go ask the Golden Wolf King and the others again to see if the slavery seal is still there. Ling Yunfei said and disappeared without a trace. During this half a month, he went to ask the Golden Wolf King and the others almost every day. Because only when he was sure that the slavery seal was still there, he could feel at ease. At the same time, in the hall, everything was the same as before. Except for the crystal, there was nothing else. It was dead silent. But, in another place, a magical scene was happening. This was an ethereal space, boundless and filled with pure white clouds and mist. Somewhere in the clouds, 2 young men in their 20s were floating in the void. Whether it was appearance, height, or physique, the 2 looked exactly the same. But there was a difference. The man on the left had black hair, like a waterfall. The man on the right had blood-red hair. That's right. The 2 were Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. At this moment, they seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep, lying quietly in the void with their eyes closed and motionless. Their expressions were extremely peaceful. Even the inner demons didn't have any hostility in their expressions. No one knew how much time had passed. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyelids moved. Then he slowly opened his eyes and looked up in confusion. Where was this? Immediately after, that dusty memory surfaced in his mind. He stood up abruptly and scanned his surroundings in shock. Was this heaven? Wait a minute. Although he wasn't a bad person who did all kinds of evil, he wasn't a good person either. How could he enter heaven? He didn't see any angels either. When he saw the inner demons, he hurried forward and shouted, "Inner demons, wake up!" Soon, the inner demons slowly opened their eyes, looked around suspiciously and asked, "Where is this? Are we dead?" "I don't know where this is either. As for whether we are dead or not, I can't be sure." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Hearing this, the inner demons raised their hands and slapped Qin Feiyang's face. Chapter 1662. However, just as Qin Feiyang grabbed the inner demon's wrist, a scene that made them turn pale with fright appeared. The inner demon's wrist collapsed on the spot. But that was not the point. The inner demons were a manifestation of consciousness. They had no flesh and blood. It was normal for them to collapse. But Qin Feiyang's hand, under the force, collapsed just like the inner demon's wrist. And there was no blood. What did that mean? It meant that he was not a flesh and blood body now. The inner demons stared at Qin Feiyang's collapsed hand dumbfounded. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and shook his arm forcefully. At that moment, his entire arm disintegrated and turned into mist. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. It seems that we are really dead. Because this was the best proof. After a person died, their flesh and blood disappeared. When the inner demons heard this, their faces turned pale and they roared. What the hell is that damn crystal? Why did it poison us? Qin Feiyang also frowned. And you? I don't understand. Have you never doubted that mysterious person's words? The inner demons looked at Qin Feiyang and said angrily. I did. But do we have a choice? No. The entrance to the Black Tortoise realm disappeared. We can only choose to believe him. This is equivalent to a gamble. Qin Feiyang sighed. The inner demons fell silent. To be honest, although I am a little unwilling to die like this, I feel relieved. Now I am most worried about Fatso and the others. If they can't leave the Black Tortoise realm, where should they go? Qin Feiyang said. You just won't change despite repeated admonitions. You can't even take care of yourself, and still think about others all day long. The inner demons rolled their eyes at him, glanced around, and said in a deep voice. First, let's figure out whether this is hell or heaven. Does it matter whether it is hell or heaven now? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Of course it matters. In the human world, we can be heroes. Even in heaven and hell, we can still carve out a path for ourselves. The inner demons said domineeringly. We are already dead. Why are you still thinking about this? Qin Feiyang shook his head. You live as a hero, die as a ghost hero, don't you understand? The inner demons glanced at him, with murderous intent flashing in his eyes, waved his hand and said, Let's go. Where to go? Qin Feiyang said hurriedly. Mental demons said. How would I know? Let's go look around. The two randomly chose a random direction, and walked step by step. Huh. Without cultivation we can still walk in the void. The inner demons was surprised. We are ghosts now. What's so strange about that? Qin Feiyang laughed. How can you still laugh? The inner demons frowned. When a person dies the light goes out. What's there to be unhappy about? Qin Feiyang shook his head. I just can't accept it. The inner demons snorted. Suddenly, between the clouds in front, there was a faint light. What's that? The two looked at each other and quickly flew over. Gradually, the light became more and more dazzling, and as they got closer, they also felt a divine power. Could it be that heaven and hell have divine weapons? The two were surprised. A moment later, when the two of them flew out of the clouds, it was as if the clouds had parted to reveal the sun. A scene that shocked the two of them appeared before their eyes. They saw divine weapons of different sizes floating in the void in front of them. There were swords, blades, halberds, axes. There were also spears, bows, daggers, sticks, and so on. In short, there were all kinds of weapons in the world here. There were so many of them that they couldn't see the end. Every weapon was emitting a dazzling divine light. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons flew all the way, looking at the divine weapons one by one. Their faces were full of disbelief. In the end, they estimated that there were at least tens of thousands of divine weapons in front of them. Tens of thousands of divine weapons. What kind of concept was that? Even Qin Feiyang's breathing became rapid and his body trembled. This was simply a terrifying divine treasure. What the hell is going on? The inner demons grabbed the back of his head and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. God knows. Qin Feiyang shrugged. The inner demons looked at the divine weapons for a moment and said, Let's split up and look around to see if there is anything else. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. The two immediately separated and shuttled through the clouds. Soon, Qin Feiyang saw another shocking scene. In the void, there were tens of thousands of jade slips floating. Each jade slip was emitting a hazy divine light. They were all divine arts. At the same time, the inner demons also found countless alchemy furnaces in the void. These alchemy furnaces were also divine-level alchemy furnaces. The two continued to search. Soon, Qin Feiyang found clusters of divine-level alchemy fire in all kinds of colors. There were tens of thousands of them. The inner demons also found a lot of medicinal herbs. And they were all the most precious medicinal herbs, such as the fruit of creation, the spiritual infant fruit, and so on. There were even many medicinal herbs that he had never seen before. Next, they also found a golden mountain that was tens of thousands of feet high, as well as countless divine pills and so on. What the hell is this place? There are so many treasures and divine objects. In the end, the two met at the place where they found the divine weapons. Both their faces and eyes were full of surprise. After a long time, The inner demons just recovered and looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Are you sure this is heaven and hell?" "Hell, I don't think so." "As for heaven," Qin Feiyang glanced at the divine weapons and said with a smile, "You don't say, this place really does look like heaven." The inner demons said, "In other words, these divine objects and treasures are all ours. We're already like this. Why do we still need these treasures and divine objects?" Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. If it was before, he would definitely take out his Qingquan bag and put it all away. But now, at most he would be shocked, but he didn't care too much. "You're bullshitting. I've said it before. We live as heroes, and we die as heroes. The divine items and treasures here are our capital. Hurry up and put them away," the inner demons urged. After saying that, they flew to a divine weapon and reached out to grab it. Qin Feiyang frowned, stepped forward to stop the inner demons, and said, "Do you think these things are still useful to us now?" "Let go." The inner demons raised his eyebrows. "We've already come to this point. Why can't you see past it? Besides, don't you feel that so many divine objects and treasures are a little unreal?" Qin Feiyang said, "They're right in front of us. Isn't it real enough?" The inner demons said angrily. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "I always feel that what we see is not real." "Nonsense. So many divine weapons. If it was anyone else, they would think that they were dreaming. But these are all real," the inner demons said. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the divine weapons in the void, and suddenly waved his hand. At that moment, a scene that the inner demons couldn't accept appeared. The divine weapons in the void actually collapsed one after another, and finally all disappeared into nothingness. Sure enough, there's a problem. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. "Who's playing tricks in the dark? Get out." After the inner demons came back to his senses, he roared. "Haha." A childish laughter suddenly sounded behind the two of them. The two of them tensed up and hurriedly turned around to look, only to see a little boy standing behind them. This little boy was only 3 or 4 years old, wearing a small red belly band and a golden bell hanging around his neck. His little face was chubby and pink. A pair of big dark eyes blinking was quite cute. However, there was a sense of depth between his eyebrows, looking like an antique that had lived for countless years. "Who are you?" Qin Feiyang looked at the child warily. The little boy looked at the two of them for a moment and grinned. "I'm the owner of this place." "The owner of this place?" Qin Feiyang looked at each other, glanced around the void, looked at the little boy suspiciously, and asked, "Then what is this place?" "You don't have to worry about that. I came out to tell you congratulations on passing the test," the little boy said. "Test?" Qin Feiyang and Qin Feiyang were stunned. The little boy glanced at the inner demons, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "To be exact, you passed the test." Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "What test?" "The test of greed. All creatures in the world have a fatal flaw, which is greed. Greed is endless, and it's also human nature. For example, you humans. In the beginning, you only pursued a little bit of wealth, enough to support your family. However, after you obtained this wealth, you wanted even more wealth. So, the treasures that appeared in front of you before were all tests." The little boy said. "So that's how it is." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. "Wait, just now you said you humans. Are you not human?" The inner demons were suspicious. The little boy frowned and said, "I just made an analogy. Why are you so worried about this?" The inner demons pursed his lips. Qin Feiyang looked at the little boy and asked, "Then what would happen if we didn't pass the test just now?" "What would happen?" The little boy chuckled and said, "Both of you would disappear. Do you know what disappear is? It's death. We're already dead. Why are you afraid of dying again?" The inner demons were disdainful. The little boy said, "How do you know that you're already dead?" The inner demons was stunned and frowned. "What do you mean? Your physical bodies have indeed disappeared, but your consciousness is still fine, isn't it? As long as your consciousness is still there, you're not dead," the little boy said. "Not dead?" Qin Feiyang and Qin Feiyang looked at each other. "Going back to what I said before, if you didn't pass the test, then your consciousness would have been ruthlessly erased." After the little boy said that, he looked at the inner demon and said, You should really be glad that your true body stopped you and didn't let you touch those divine artifacts. Otherwise, both of your consciousnesses would have been wiped out by now. The inner demons couldn't help but feel a lingering fear after hearing this. Qin Feiyang looked at the inner demons and said with a smile, "Like I said, you can't just look at the surface of things. You just happen by accident. What are you so proud of?" The inner demons snorted. Chapter 1663. The little boy said, "Even if the physical body disappears, it can still be reconstructed." Reconstruct. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons were shocked. "See for yourself." The little boy waved his hand, and an image immediately appeared in the void in front of him. The scene displayed in the image was the main hall. The crystal was still suspended in the void, emitting a dazzling light. Suddenly, strands of divine light fell from the crystal. A blurry outline gradually appeared. It was the outline of a person. Qin Feiyang looked at the little boy in surprise and said, "That can't be me, right?" The little boy did not answer. Qin Feiyang looked at the image again. As time passed, the outline became clearer. About 100 breaths later, finally, the outline solidified. A young man in white with flesh and blood appeared in the line of sight of Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. Both of them were dumbfounded, because that young man in white was their physical body. How could this be? The two of them looked at the little boy in surprise. The little boy said, "It's the energy of the heart of origin that helped you reconstruct your physical body." Heart of origin. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons looked at each other. What was this? The little boy said, "The crystal you see is the heart of origin of the Black Tortoise realm." The heart of origin of the Black Tortoise realm? Qin Feiyang and the inner demons were even more puzzled, because they could not understand at all. What was the heart of origin that the little boy was talking about? The mystery of the heart of origin is not something that people of your level can understand. All you need to know now is that controlling the heart of origin is equivalent to controlling the Black Tortoise realm. The little boy said. Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled. "Who exactly are you? Were you the one who asked the heart of origin to help us reconstruct our physical bodies?" The inner demons looked at the little boy and said, "Me. I've always been in front of you. Did you see me ask it to help you reconstruct your physical bodies?" The little boy said. The inner demons frowned. The little boy did not say anything. "You will know who I am in the future. As for now, you all have already passed the trial. I believe that the heart of origin should no longer reject you all." After the little boy finished speaking, he waved his little hand, and Qin Feiyang and the inner demons immediately appeared in the hall. "That's it." The inner demons were astonished. "What else do you want?" Qin Feiyang asked. The inner demons said, "He should have made it clear. The heart of origins will no longer reject us." What does that mean? Isn't that simple? Since the heart of origin will no longer reject us, we can obtain it. Qin Feiyang said. Yeah. The inner demons shuddered and immediately raised their heads to look at the heart of origins. Their eyes flickered as they urged, "Quickly go and try it." Chapter 1665. Little brother, stop it. At this moment, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and hurriedly looked at the little boy. The little boy was slightly stunned. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked in confusion, "I'm clearing the inner demons for you now. Shouldn't you be grateful to me? Why are you stopping me instead?" In the eyes of the world, the inner demons are ominous things, the embodiment of evil. To be honest, I used to want to get rid of him. But after getting along with him, I realized that he is actually no different from us. And now he has become a part of my life. Qin Feiyang glanced at the inner demons and smiled at the little boy. This body. Hearing these words, the inner demons stared at Qin Feiyang in a daze. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. A part of my life. The little boy muttered to himself and slowly lowered his arm. Looking at the inner demons, he said lightly, "You are very lucky to have met such a body. Cherish it." This time, the inner demons did not refute. Wait a minute. Suddenly, he was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Wasn't Qin Feiyang in great pain before? Why did he seem to be fine now? Could it be that he had succeeded in recognizing him as the master? That's right. Yes, I have succeeded in recognizing him as the master. Qin Feiyang looked at the inner demons and said with a smile. The inner demons were overjoyed and asked, "Then why did you scream just now? I said you were stupid, but you didn't admit it. Although the heart of origin is merged with the soul, it is not merged with the entire soul." The little boy said disdainfully, "Yes, I screamed just now because the heart of origin split my soul. As for the strand of soul that was split off, it fused with the heart of origin. This is how the heart of origin recognizes its master." Qin Feiyang said, "I see." The inner demons were enlightened. To be honest, he was really frightened previously. He thought that the heart of origins was going to erase Qin Feiyang's soul. Otherwise, he wouldn't have attacked the little boy. Of course, if he hadn't attacked the little boy, he wouldn't have known that the little boy was hiding such a terrifying technique. Originally, he and Qin Feiyang both thought that this little boy didn't have much strength and only had a terrifying background. But the result was the exact opposite. They could not figure it out either. How could a child who was only 3 or 4 years old possess such terrifying strength? Qin Feiyang looked at the little boy and asked, "May I ask, where do you live and who are your parents?" "Don't ask what you shouldn't." A cold light flashed in the little boy's eyes. He said expressionlessly, "I have successfully recognized you as my master. I should also take my leave. See you again." After saying that, the little boy instantly disappeared without a trace. Leaving just like that. The inner demons were stunned. Chapter 1666. Willow Tree and the others in the castle looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. But more than that, they were happy. These days, because they were worried about Qin Feiyang's safety, they had been in a state of anxiety. If it weren't for their strong minds, they would have collapsed. Therefore, at this moment, seeing Qin Feiyang come out alive, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. However, what followed was also a lot of doubts. How did Qin Feiyang come out? One had to know. Not only Zhuge Mingyang, but also they had been staring at the door of the hall. From the beginning to the end, the door had not been opened. White-eyed Wolf looked at Qin Feiyang in the picture, raised his eyebrows and said, "No, he is not little Qin Zi, but the inner demons." Listening to the laughter, Fat Lord already knew that it was the inner demons. However, since the inner demons appeared, the boss must be fine. Fatso said with a smile. Everyone nodded. Outside, Zhuge Mingyang looked at the inner demons and frowned. "When did you come out?" "Just now," the inner demons said. "Just now." Zhuge Mingyang frowned more and more. Did this guy come out by opening the portal? But it seemed that the portal couldn't be opened in the desert. And Qin Feiyang was now a disabled person, so he couldn't open the portal. At this moment, the inner demons didn't have the slightest aura of cultivation from head to toe, just like an ordinary person. Of course, he was deliberately teasing Zhuge Mingyang. "Surprised, aren't you? You were waiting outside just to catch me off guard. But in the end, you didn't show off. Are you very angry now?" The inner demon sneered. "Yes, I'm very angry now. But answer me, can you withstand my wrath in your current state?" Zhuge Mingyang sneered and charged towards the inner demons with a terrifying demonic aura. "Save the young master!" Ning Mingi shouted. Willow Tree waved his hand. Ning Mingi, Chui Li, Li Yun, and Willow Tree himself immediately appeared above the inner demons. Following closely, the 4 of them unleashed their auras, and their quasi-divinity energy gushed out, rushing towards Zhuge Mingyang. "It's best that all of you come out, lest I have to deal with you one by one." Zhuge Mingyang let out a maniacal laugh. The grayish-white power of the false god emerged and roared in the sky. Rumble, Willow Tree, and the other 3's false god powers were instantly shattered. The 4 of them turned pale. They quickly looked at the inner demons and said, "Young master, let's go to the castle." The inner demons, however, turned a deaf ear to him. They laughed and waved their hands. Rumble. In the sky, a terrifying power of the rules came crashing down. "This is..." Willow Tree and the other 3 were shocked. How could the young master control the rule force? Zhuge Mingyang looked at the rule force with a look of horror. What was going on? What did he get in the main hall? Rumble. There is a good saying, friends are not many, but understanding. In this life, being able to make a few close friends is already very good. Qin Feiyang laughed. Nonsense. The inner demon snorted through its nose. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, looked at Ning Mingi and the others and said, "It seems that this is your choice, forget it, do as you wish." After saying that, he waved his hand, and the heart of origin appeared, passing through the hearts of the group of people one by one. Ning Mingi and the others hurriedly checked their hearts, and were pleasantly surprised to find that the devil mark had really disappeared. "Thank you, Brother Qin. If there is a chance, I, Li Yin, will definitely repay your kindness today." Li Yin bowed and said, "It's nothing." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, and then waved his hand, and the people of Fengtian Palace immediately disappeared. Because Li Yun's words were enough to represent his decision to leave the Black Tortoise realm, Ning Mingi glanced at Lu Zheng and the others, took a deep breath, looked at Qin Feiyang and bowed. "This is the last time I call you young master. Young master, take care." "Take care." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Young master, wait." Suddenly, Zhao Tailai ran in front of Qin Feiyang and said, "I want to stay." Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Zhao Tailai, what are you doing?" Ning Mingi said angrily. Zhao Tailai said, "Only by following the young master will I have a chance to avenge Shi Meng. You guys go." "You're confused," Ning Mingi said angrily. Lu Zheng sneered. "The Vanga League no longer exists. He is no longer one of your people. If he wants to stay, it is his freedom. What can you do?" Ning Mingi glanced at Lu Zheng, looked at Zhao Tailai and said, "Are you sure you want to stay?" Zhao Tailai nodded. "Young master, I have also decided to stay." At this time, Chui Li, who was standing in the crowd, gritted his teeth and stood out, looking at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Ning Mingi glanced at Chui Li, then looked at Zhao Tailai and said angrily, "Idiot, idiot, all idiots." Immediately, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Send us out." His attitude changed in an instant. Not only did he not have the slightest respect, but it also made people feel that Qin Feiyang owed him millions. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the group of people from the Vanga League immediately disappeared. Fatso stepped forward and patted Zhao Tailai and Chui Li on the shoulder, and said with a smile, "Old Zhao, old Chui, believe in Fat Lord, you made the right choice." Zhao Tailai and Chui Li looked at each other and smiled, looked at everyone and said, "Then in the future please take care of us. Since you are staying, you are one of us, taking care of you is necessary." White-Eyed Wolf laughed. Lu Hong and the others were also smiling.